Well, we might have to rapid fire this one, but I want to talk about the Almanac top backcourt list. I think people know I contributed to the Almanac. I just mentioned it. So by the Almanac, it's something that I think we're all really proud of, have worked hard on, and I do think it's the best coverage you're going to find as far as preseason previews go. Insight from coaches, anonymous coaching polls, good national content. But I wanted to discuss Rob Doster's backcourt list because he wrote that for us and it generated some buzz. So no disrespect towards Doster, that's my guy. But I read his full on article and it made a little sense, made more sense to me why he ranked some teams where he did, because he was looking at it more holistically. Like basically he's mentioning like the top five, some in some cases six guys in the backcourt, and he sort of lumps some wings into the backcourt as well. But I would still dispute with him on where he had some of these teams ranked. So I wanted to open up to y'all because we texted about it some on the side. Like, who do you think is too high, too low? What teams that didn't make the cut would you like to see on there? Cart, do you want to say your piece about Michigan State? You look like you're about ready to go to bat for Tyson Walker and the
No,
boys.
not at all. You know what? I understand how hard making lists is, and I don't want to just be the podcast that tears down lists and breaks down and shits on lists 24/7. So I just want to say making lists are very hard. I also saw the picture that Rob Dowser tweeted out this morning of his bagel order, and the list makes complete sense now. So I really have no qualms about it. I think it was correct.
All right, can I speak to why I don't think it was correct then?
You have the floor.
Thank you. Okay. So first off, I love lists. I'm a big list guy. I like lists because I can make fun of lists, and
Okay, Tristan.
it's good. Lists are fun. We can make fun of lists, and that's okay. I also like Rob Doster. Shocker. I know that was like plus 300 out there for me to publicly say I like Rob Doster, but I do. The Almanac fascinates me because I tweeted this out yesterday. I think people know this in general. I don't work on the Almanac at all, even though I do like social media and other stuff for Field of 68. For whatever reason, I'm just not involved in that whatsoever. And that's perfectly fine by me because I know it takes a lot of work and I respect everybody's efforts that go into this. The most fascinating thing about it for me, though, is that it seems from the outside looking in and what I know about it, it seems like it's a lot of individual siloed work here. And there's not as much collaborative, like here's our collective mind power stuff at the national level as I would think. It's like, oh, Rob did the top 20 list. And then like three other people are like, I didn't sign off on that. And I'm like, well, we got Heat Check, we got 3 we got all these smart people here. And everybody's like, I'm not standing behind that. So that's not a diss to the Almanac because everyone's smart and lists are fun and lists are meant to provoke engagement. And Rob is a genius at provoking engagement. With that said, Rob's camping on Twitter super hard about how you can't use one game as a reason Michigan State should be ahead of Marquette. Yes, you can. I get it. Tyler Kolek was hurt. Ooh, sorry, he had a boo-boo. Like he was your number one first team All-American best point guard in the country, according to you all season long last year. He couldn't play through that and show up better than he did. He was terrified. That wasn't a physical illness of why Tyler Kolek struggled in that game. It was that he was mentally horrified. AJ Hoggard was eating him for lunch. Tyson Walker was in his shorts. So I'm not even a Michigan State guy, but that's definitely like a note here. It can't be your full reason for why Michigan State should be ahead of Marquette. In fact, Rob laid out a good reason for why Michigan State would have an argument to be ahead of Marquette, but it's definitely a note. And you don't just downplay it because AJ Hoggard had like 25 that game or whatever it was. He crushed them. So I don't get that one. But I know they've been high on Marquette's backcourt for forever. Outside of that, like, I assume he's just trolling Kentucky, leaving them off. That's my assumption. When people told me it was just Rob that did this, I'm like, okay, then that was the move. Is that all fair, Riley? Like, where do you land on that?
Yeah, I think Kentucky should be on there. As far as like the siloed work, we collaborated on our top 100 players and our top 25. Sometimes it is, I mean, it's a lot to coordinate like 12 people to vote for something. So I get that. I wrote the breakout player list, for example. I asked for some feedback, but I think only like 2 people weighed in. Dosser was one of them, though. Dosser gave me some of his input. But yeah, I think like, I mean, I would put Michigan State number one. I'm a huge Tyson Walker believer. I know AJ Hoggard, like even this might be a little coach speaky, but just in speaking to like 25 coaches this year, it seems like the consensus, every coach loves to talk about paint touches or touching the paint, and that's what AJ Hogarth does. Like pretty much anytime he's running point, he'll get you a paint touch, he'll get to the rim, or he'll find someone who's open. So and I think Fears might be like the best backup point guard in the country. Is that fair to say? Like I might have to think about that a little bit more, but I don't think there's anyone on this list who has a guy they can bring off the bench that's as good as Jeremy Fears. So Michigan State would be number one pretty easily. USC was a team I thought was too low just because I'm a huge believer in Isaiah Collier. I know some of the 3-man weave guys were on with Mark Titus, and they were talking about how this is a down class. I can't remember if it was one of them or Titus that said that Collier looked more like the 10th ranked player in a good class and the number one player. I strongly disagree with that. I think Collier is freaking awesome. He's someone who I wouldn't be surprised if he's averaging 16 and 6 this year on good efficiency. And then as far as teams that didn't make the list that I want to go to bat for is Ohio State. And as y'all were talking about players in the Big Ten who have the best shot to break through to that top 5, I got to roll with Bruce Thornton. I think he is poised for stardom this year. And as I know we've talked about this on this program before, but I love Roddy Gale too. So I'm pretty in on the Buckeyes, and especially if you want to loop Scotty Middleton in as kind of a guard, as a big big guard, 6'7" guard, that Ohio State trifecta should be pretty solid.
I'm with that. Last thing I want to add before we go to the last topic is that I think Texas should be higher. I think Texas should be A. Smith and Tyrese Hunter is an awesome backcourt. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that should be higher.
I look at the 11 through 20 range too, and there's a lot of coaches that are known for great backcourts on here that maybe I don't like the players as much this year. Like Scott Drew, Baylor's at 12, Muss at 16 with Arkansas, Arizona at 18. I know people like Caleb Love and they bring other guys back, but to me, if you offered those 3 coaches, if they could have their actual backcourt or Jameer Young and Deshaun Harris-Smith, they would take Jameer Young and Deshaun Harris-Smith and go running in the opposite direction. And Maryland's nowhere to be found on this list. So I don't know, a little Big Ten heavy for me, but just saying.